Namaskar. Welcome back to another live Thursday evening, 7 p.m. I know it's not 7, it's 7:10 now, but that's a real life. Sometimes you run around, you get late for the live. So welcome again. I'm glad you joined. Let's talk about the cost of living if you have to live in India, because there are a lot of things that you need to take into account when you're living in Canada, more specifically in Windsor. Of course, most of the expenses that are actually common in most of the cities, except to some of the major things are like mortgage, car payments. Those are some of the things that would vary depending on which city you're living in. So if you're new to this channel, my name is Aditya Soma. I'm a real estate investor and realtor here in Windsor, Ontario. So on this channel, I talk about how you can achieve financial freedom using real estate, as a vehicle, because real estate allowed me to be financially free. So if you want the same thing, then follow me for more content. Of course, I talk a lot on this channel, right? So without any ado, let's get into the today's topic is the cost of living in Windsor, Ontario. What are the some of the common expenses that you can expect if you're living in Windsor? Okay, and in the meanwhile, while I'm sharing this information, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, because where you're joining from, what's your name, and what's in your mind. What are the some of the common questions that you have when it comes to real estate, cost of living in Canada, living in Windsor. Anything that you would like to know from me, leave any questions you have. If you don't ask, you won't get answers. The worst case scenario, you would get some directions if you ask, right? So don't keep yourself. And if you ask, we can learn from each other. And a lot of people who are watching this live, they can learn from your concerns that you have as well. So please don't hesitate to ask me any questions while I'm going through this cost of living in the comments below. And if you're joining for the first time, make sure let me know where you're joining from, um, and what bring you to my channel. Okay. Hey Suresh, good evening. Thanks for joining. Okay, so let's jump into the cost of living. Again, I have made a video. I will put the link in the description or in the comments. Back in 2020, on the same topic, cost of living in Windsor, Ontario. Um, but the market has changed quite a bit, especially the inflation rate. In 2020, the inflation rate was under 1%. Now we are at 6.5%, 6.9%. So it went up quite a lot. And so the Bank of Canada trying to fight the inflation by increasing the interest rates. So that is causing more troubles, because the interest rates, at that point in time, the prime was the prime rate, which is the deciding factor of what's your car payment, what's your mortgage, and all those things, right? That's a standard uh, rate across the board. That prime rate was under 2% before. Now we are standing at 5.95%. So it's more than double. So obviously, when it's more than double, the cost of living also go up, right? So that's why I thought I'll give you guys an update. What's the current cost of livings. But if you want to know more details on that topic, I'll put the link for my old video, because that got a pretty good interest, and a lot of people were engaging in there. So make sure to check out that video if you'd like to. Suresh from Hyderabad planning to come for September intake. Glad to hear, buddy. I wish you the best. Aman, hey Aman, yeah, Pulin, this side. I just got my work permit after my studies. I want to enter into real estate as my profession. I want to invest in Windsor. So fantastic, buddy. If you're looking to get into Windsor, only thing is when you're on work permit, getting investing, there is a tricky point, because the recently Canadian government has bought this new law where you have to pay foreign buyer tax, which is 25%. 25% on the property price. That's crazy. So if you want to invest, maybe you partner up with someone who has a permanent residency, or go out of Ontario, because I believe Ontario and Vancouver has a foreign buyer tax, and maybe most of the other provinces don't have. So do some research, if that's something. Or wait, keep learning, keep saving money, keep increasing your income, and save up as much as money as possible. And as soon as you get your permanent residency, then start investing at that point in time, because the time is precious. You can use that time to So let's get into the cost of living in Windsor, Ontario. The biggest difference. So I'll be starting with some of the common cost of living that is common across any cities in Ontario, and also some of the cost of living that vary between the different cities. So first thing to start with, the common expenses is like your groceries. And your rent if you're renting a place. But rentals also change from city to city. If you're owning a home, your mortgage, your what expenses you have that are attached to the property, because that could vary. So like your mortgage, your property tax, you will have to pay every year a tax. And you have to have a home insurance. Your home insurance is an expense, right? If you own a house, um, and if you're owning a house and living in it, then you have to pay for utilities. You will have like gas bills, electrical bills, and if you have any rentals, wastewater bills. That's another thing. If you have like some houses have a hot water tank rental, some houses have a furnace rentals, some houses have AC rentals. So that's also an expense, right? Every month you're incurring those bills. And also, um, if you're driving a car, that also makes a difference, right? If you're taking a public transport in Windsor, the public transport is a different price, whereas in different cities is a different price. So let's go one by one. Don't worry, I'll get into each and every element. And like I mentioned earlier, any questions while I'm discussing the topic, make sure let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer. So I see Pradeep. Why should I invest in Windsor? Of course, very good question. So before we get into the cost of living, why you should invest in Windsor? So if I were you, I would ask yourself, like, what's your goal, right? Um, if your goal is to reduce your liability, which is the mortgage, right? Um, Windsor is still an affordable place comparative to a lot of cities in Ontario. So if you're coming from GTA, the average home price in GTA is over 1.1, 1.2 million. Whereas in Windsor, the average home price is right now, as of October, it's 542,000. So that means you can buy a detached home, an average detached home in an average location for 520,000. So look at the difference, the cost, because that's the major cost for you to live, right? And especially if you have a work from home option, or if you're just investing, the numbers, the mortgage payment would make a big difference, because that's your expense. And the income, the rents are not that much of a difference, because if you have to rent a 3 bedroom house in GTA, probably you will pay $3,000, whereas in Windsor you will pay 2,200, 2,300. So the difference is 20 to 30%, whereas the price difference is more than 50%. So that means indirectly, if you're an investor, you have a better chances to find cash flowing properties in cities like Windsor. And personally, I invest mostly heavily in Windsor, and some investments here and there across the board, because I can still find good cash flowing properties. So that's the number one. Number two, the city immigration population is growing. The city population is growing quite a lot in recent times, especially after COVID, because a lot of people have this job work from home option. Maybe they have to come once in a month, or twice in a month, or thrice in a month. They can just drive by, or take a flight from here to Toronto. Flight is like 15, probably I think half an hour. If you're driving, it's 3.5 hours to Mississauga, Brampton. And if you're going to downtown core, probably 4 hours. So that's another reason the growth is happening, and there is a lot of new job opportunities coming up in Windsor itself as well, because right now we have a new bridge construction between US and Detroit is going on. And we have a new battery plant that was announced and already broke the ground, so that is bringing in more employees. And a new Amazon warehouse that's in the process. And a lot of this work from home options that I just mentioned. But also on top of it, we have access to all the bigger city amenities, because if you're living in Brampton, you're surrounded with all those amenities. And how long you have to drive? 10, 15, 20 minutes, right, minimum. And same thing, if you drive 10, 15 minutes from Windsor, you have Detroit, the biggest city, one of the biggest city, not the biggest, but one of the biggest in US. That's right there, right on the border. We are just like 1, 2 kilometers from the border. I can literally see the Detroit downtown, the GM buildings from my house. Yes, I'm not kidding. I wish if it's not dark, I would show you guys the video, right? So that's another huge advantage, and it's a growing city. The population is growing. It's like overall, the lifestyle offers a lot of good things for you. And also, if you don't like driving a lot, Windsor is a small city. You don't have to drive more than 10, 15 minutes if you want to go see your friends, or if you're working. Even if you work in Detroit, that's also like still 15, 20 minutes, or maybe half an hour, and with much less traffic. So less traffic, less driving time means your cost of living is less, right? So that's another advantage. And of course, if you love water activities, Windsor is surrounded by water. Lake Ontario, the Detroit River, Point Pilly is like just 45 minutes from here. A lot of water sports you can do, and Windsor has a, like, within the downtown. There's a, just right downtown, between Detroit and Windsor, there is a beautiful 5 kilometers trail, that is the Riverside Trail. Very beautiful. It's like an open park, open museum they call, where you can go for walking, biking. That's my favorite one. I have talked about that in many videos. So that's some of the common things. But for investor, the biggest thing in my opinion is cash flow, because if you have a good cash flowing property, you don't have to sell in the markets, downward markets, right? So that's a big thing. And the mortgage on your name is much lower. So I was talking to an investor recently. We were talking about our recent investments, and this guy was sharing. He lives in Toronto, and he was super excited that he bought a single family home, detached home, because detached home buying is a thing. It's not a common thing, right? Like, you have to have certain amount of credibility and cash. So he was so excited sharing about it, and he asked me about what was your recent investment, and I told him I got about 27 unit building. And he was asking about the price, like I was 3.8 million. 3.8 million, that's it. 27 units, 27 tenants will be paying me my mortgage and expenses, right? So not me, in a sense, me and my partner, of course. So that's the difference we are talking about. So with 27 units, the cash flow is much higher, right? So when the down markets like this, I'm not worried, because the tenants will be there. If not, if they don't pay the rent, I can find some other tenants, because the shelter is a basic need. And the cost of living in that apartments are much lower than a detached home. So that's the differences we are talking about. Hope you're convinced with why investing in Windsor makes sense. But again, there is obviously, if you're cash heavy, you have a heavy investor, having a leverage to have investments in bigger cities does make sense, because they have a lot more wide variety of jobs. Majority of the population growth happening in those areas and surroundings. So it does make sense. But for someone starting out small, who don't have a much of a appetite for heavy risk tolerance, having those millions of dollars mortgages with only 1, 2 tenants, then you better look into the cities like Windsor. Okay. Aman, yes, sir. It is 20% tax, and we can get refund after PRE. So right now, the foreign buyer tax is at 25%. That just increased again. And yes, if you get your permanent residency within 4 years upon you purchase the property, you will get that money back. So that's true. And Suresh, I've been following you, watching all your content, got motivated a lot. Thank you. Watching your personal vlogs also. I have same exact story of yours. Recently got married. Finally, we are coming as a couple. Glad to hear, brother. Thank you for sharing that. If anyone watching and speak Telugu, I have another channel. It's a Telugu channel. It's called Canada Aditya Telugu Vlogs, where it's more fun and and a little bit informative, but mostly like my travel vlogs, lifestyle, and those kind of things. So if you're interested, feel free to check out that. Alan, hi Aditya. Question: is there ever an issue with the vacancies at all your properties? My main fear is not having renters for many months and not being able to pay the mortgage. So very, very good question. I have 50 tenants, right? I would be scared with that. Always look at the vacancy rate. So in when the recent times when the market was super worst in Windsor was in 2008. When 2008, the vacancy rate was somewhere between 10 to 12%, which means if you have 10 units, you can expect one or two units vacant. If you have a unit on the market, the chances of your unit sitting on the market out of 1 year is 1 to 2 months. So that's based on the data in the worst market. I'm talking about 2008, which is 14 years ago. And now the vacancy rate is below 4%. So and none of my units are vacant. None of my units are vacant unless the one that I'm renovating. And I'm trying to get some of the units vacant in two of my buildings. It's not that easy because the tenants doesn't move, this doesn't want to move because they cannot find another similar kind of property from the place for similar rents because the rent's gone up. So the vacancy rate is very low. That's another thing. Just do some research, right? Just search for vacancy rate in Windsor, Ontario. You will be able to find a lot more details on that area because the population is growing. That's a very key. The jobs opportunities are coming. Opportunities in Toronto, opportunities in Detroit, work from home opportunities, and on top of it, the new job opportunities within the Windsor, the bridge construction, the EV battery plant construction, and a lot of construction, and plus the mega hospital that is in progress. That they haven't started the work yet. Probably they'll start in 2024 or 2025. So those kind of things are happening in Windsor. In my opinion, they are adding a huge value to Windsor. So with that reason, I don't think the vacancy rate will ever go more than 10-15%. So that's why I like to spread my risk in multiple units. So that's not possible in bigger cities. Whereas in smaller city, for 500,000, do you believe that you can still get like 2 or 3 units? I Right now I'm listing a property tomorrow. You can get 3 units in a decent Walkerville location, close to water, for under 450,000. If you're curious, DM me on Instagram. It's the same name you can see on the screen, Aditya Kumar Soma, saying 3 unit property. I'll send you the details. So you can buy those kind of properties. Now 3 out of 3 units, if you have 1 unit vacant, if you can still survive, that's the goal, right? That means your risk is lower comparative to if you buy. What can you get in a bigger cities for 500,000? What can you get? Ask yourself, ask the realtor in your city, whichever the city you're looking to invest. What can you get for that price? Condo, townhome, detached? How many units can you get? How much is your risk? So that's what, again, that's where I'm bought in. That's why I'm buying. I'm even making I made an offer actually this morning, another multi-family building. Of course, I won't share the details until I have it accepted. Then I can talk about it. um, yeah, so that's a good concern, Alan. And do some more details on that. Want to know the cost of living and still affordable in Ontario for newcomers? So great question, Suresh. So we'll go back to your our topic. So I got shifted by the why question. I have some notes written down here. So if you're buying a home in Windsor, your first expense is mortgage, right? So average home, like I mentioned, average home price in Windsor is 542,000. So for 542,000 with a 5 years fixed, the currently if you're a first time home buyer, you can get 5%, the 5% interest rate for 5 years fixed. So for 5% interest, if you're putting 20% down, your mortgage is 200 and 2,519. So that's your first expense. And for the same price range property, approximately your property tax is around $300 a month. Again, it varies based on how big your property and which pocket it's located, all those things, right? But I'm just giving an average. So your average mortgage is 2,500, and your average property taxes are $300. And for the same house, home insurance is another expense you have. So your average home insurance is $150 per month. So far, 2,500, 3,000 for property tax, 150 for insurance, and you have to pay utilities in Windsor: hydro, which is electricity, gas, and water. Of course, the utility bills vary from property to property as well, because if the property is insulated very well, and if your heating is gas and heating and cooling is gas, then your expenses will be approximately. Right now my house is furnace and AC, and it's around 1,200 square feet house. um, 3 bedroom, one bath on the main floor, and 2 bedroom, one bath in the basement. So this house, my cost for hydro, specifically the electricity, uh, is around 60 $70. So again, also depends on your laundry, right? If your laundry and the gas place, uh, the stove, if it's gas or furnace, and if you have a electric fireplace, or if your heating is electric, then your bills will be more than $100. Because if you have any electric elements in your house, the more electrical elements you have, the more your bills. I don't have any of those. I only have like stove is electrical, fridge, stove, and now washer and dryer, and the rest, my heating is gas. So there, um, electricity, approximately, let's throw $100. And then gas, that's another $100. I'm doing an average of whole year, because the gas bills in winter will be higher, and in summer will be lower. And also water bill, this is another element. My house, I have a septic tank system, which means I don't have a wastewater bill. So that is the saving of $100, $120. But if I'm mine is in sewer, 80% of the properties in Windsor are having like sewer line, the city line, which means you will have a water bills, a wastewater and a regular water. It depends on how many people you're living in the house. If you're a four people house, four people on an average, I'm looking at your wastewater and regular water bills anywhere from 150 to $200. So that means approximately your utility bills can be around $400. Okay, hope you're still with me. And if anyone have any comments regarding these expenses, please let me know. If you're living in Windsor, let me know if I'm being on the right number or not. Any changes, let me know in the comments. And another thing a lot of people don't take into account is, does your property have any rental equipments? Because a lot of the properties have hot water tank rental, furnace rental, AC rental. If it's hot water tank, generally you can expect anywhere from $20 to $30. And furnace and AC, this is where it gets expensive. If you have furnace and AC both, you can expect anywhere from $120 to even $200, depending on what size, the capacity of the furnace and AC. But on an average, 120. So that means if you have rental items, you can expect 140 to 200 in total. So um, and on top of it, of course, you have to eat food, right? Groceries. So year ago, I used to see my grocery bills are a little bit lesser, but now I'm seeing like I go for I in the sense my wife or me, we go for grocery shopping every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, and I'm a family of like, now I have a new edition before new edition, because now I have to do my remath on the with the baby, and my baby is very just born like a month and a half ago. Um, so before baby, I used to get give or take $150 to $200 every 2 weeks on my groceries. Baby has certain needs, right? I have to have a baby wipes, diapers, and that's another extra, at least, like, and the baby formula, because the feeding is an addition thing. It depends on your personal situation. So for me, that's another extra $200 to $300 every month, as of now. And of course, if you bring other toys for the baby, clothes for the baby, then your expenses can go up. Another important expense is your car payment. So if you are renting a car, sorry, if you're completely just not have a car, then probably you're taking public transport, right? So for public transport in Windsor, you can expect for a monthly cost anywhere from $100 to $150 a monthly pass. But if you own a car, my gas bills used to be much lower before 2 years ago. Now I'm almost spending every month, because again, depends on your profession too, depends on what work you're into. I'm a realtor. I'm driving around the city. I'm an investor. I'm driving to buy rental properties, or driving, seeing the properties almost every day. I'm putting 50 to 100 kilometers on my car, right? So my bills are more. I'm spending around $800, or give or take, just on my gas bills. Sorry, the yeah, gas, the petrol. Um, and monthly payment depends on when you got your car. For me, I don't have a my car is paid off. But before I paid off, I used to pay $350 on my mortgage, the car loan. And insurance on the car, that's another expense. Because it's a smaller city, Windsor, your insurance is generally at least 30-40% less than the bigger cities. So, and also depends on your profile. If you got a lot of accidents, if you have a, if you got into problems, then probably your expenses would be more, your insurance would be more. But if you're a safe driver, I didn't had any accident in last 4 years. I had an accident in like 2015, not 4 years, 6 years ago. So now my accident is gone from the profile. So now I'm paying around $180 on my car payment, because I have my home insurance with the same company. And you, again, depends on your experience, you can get more. If you're under 25, probably you will have a higher insurance. So that's another thing. So those are some of the common expenses that I see. And of course, on top of it, your entertainment. If you're going out more for dinners, for movies, you can throw that another, $300-400, uh, or even $500, depends on your habits. And if you have a habit of smoking, that's another extra, at least $200, because my dad does smoke. And he says like he need a pack for every 3 days. So pack costs $20. So 3 into like 10 into 20 into 10, that there you go, $200 a month. And if you have a habit of drinking every day or often, that is also another expense. So there you go, that's your most of your expenses. If I missed something, let me know in the comments below. So if I just have to sum it up, um, your mortgage payment 2500, property tax 300, home insurance 150, utilities 400. So right here we are at 2500, 300, 2800, 2950, plus 3350. And rental items, if you have, let's assume you don't have, you only have the hot water tank, that's a common thing, you're at 3300. So approximately, if you own a home, you need somewhere from 4500 to $5000 every month. That's with a consideration of average home. So how can you reduce your expenses? This is a common question I get. Maybe look for this average home where you can have a basement suite. And if you have a 2 bedroom basement suite, I rented my 2 bedroom basement suite in South Windsor, a bungalow. That was the average home price, 500 home. So that one, my basement suite rented for $1,700. So now reduce that from your cost of living. So that means you can live for under $3,000. So again, if you're a renter, um, So because I put the mortgage as 2,500 and utilities and all those things, right? So just the house cost for you to own a house, the main cost for house itself is 3,500, 3,350 to 3,500, because the first six elements are the house related one, right? So if you're owning a house, average home price, you can expect that 3,500 cost approximately. But if you rent the same house, probably you can rent for $2,000 or 2,100. Or if you go for an apartment, a three-bedroom apartment, probably you can get it for 1,800, 1,700, all inclusive. Again, depends on the condition, right? So that's another varies. So if you're renting, you can reduce your cost by $1,000 to $1,500 on that. And of course, it also varies. If you're a bachelor, just if you're renting a single room, probably $400, $500 a month. So that also varies, right? So if you're a couple, maybe you can go for a bachelor unit. Then the bachelor unit can get you for $1,000. So your cost of living gone down to from 4,500 to literally 2,000, 2,500. So if you're a couple, even one of you working, you will be able to live safely. If both of you working in a good job, then you can save one of the income even by owning a home. And if you do a housewife, or if you're an investor more crazy like me who wants to go for more units, maybe if you buy a fourplex, live in one unit, now you can even mostly reduce your cost, the at least the property expenses, the 3,500 cost, down to maybe $1,000. Most of the tenants can pay, or the income from the rents can pay all most of your expenses, right? So there you go. That's the cost of living. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments. I'm going to go through the questions here. Is it possible to pay the mortgage with the rents in Windsor? I want to be an investor. Kindly suggest. Venkat, yes, definitely. That's very possible. Like I mentioned earlier, yes, if you have some patience, hunting the deals, looking for deals patiently, writing offers on the at the number where you will be positive cash flow. Yes, there are properties, there are duplexes, triplexes, like I just mentioned. Actually right now, like I have at least three properties. Two of them are off market, one is going on to the market tomorrow. All the three will be positive approximately, if you do very very conservative numbers, two $300. If you do little bit lenient numbers, you can make over $500 positive cash flow after all your mortgage, property tax, insurance, all the expenses that I just mentioned. After all those expenses, you will be positive cash flow, so it's doable. That is amazing. Yes, you're right. Windsor will be super populated within a decade. That's what I'm guessing, because that's why there is a saying in real estate: instead of waiting to buy at the right time, buying and waiting in the market over a period of 10, 20 years will make sense, especially if you're getting into the right markets. I do. I wanted to do internship someday in Win City. Good luck, buddy. Yeah. So come over to Windsor. Few more questions. Can you use the equity from one of your property for a down payment on another home? So answer your first question. Still, yes, you can do that if your income to debt ratio makes sense, because generally there are most of the lenders do allow you, because that's how I bought more properties, because I refinance my primary home, use that line of credit to buy other properties. So there you are, your first answer. Is home insurance mandatory? So yes, the home insurance that insures your home is mandatory. But if you're talking about mortgage insurance, because if you're buying a house for under 20% down for primary use, you can get under 20% down for 5 or 10% or 15% down. In that cases, you will have a premium. The insurance is for the mortgage. So that is an exception. If you have 20% down, you can avoid that insurance. Is it better to get tenants to pay for utilities? So again, yes, right. Look from a common sense point of view. If they're paying for it, they'll be a little bit responsible, because that's their expense from their pocket. And you have a specific numbers. Now you know exactly how much income to expect and what expenses to have. But if you're paying for the utilities and you accounted, let's say you rented the place today, and you based on the current expenses, the utility bills, you are charging them that much premium on the rent. But they, let's assume again, they're not responsible tenants, they're keeping the windows open in the winter, so more gas bills. And they're just sitting in the shower for 2 hours, and the wastewater bills, imagine. So yes, it's always good to have, but again, that's not always possible. That's where you try to cap. So that's another trick what that you can use in the lease. You put like $200 cap or $300 cap. What I mean that, you're saying your tenant, if your bill goes more than this much, you have to pay for it. So now they'll try to be a little bit more reasonable. Do federal taxes on rental reduce your cash flow significantly? Federal taxes on your rental reduce your cash flow. So let me understand this, Alan, properly. First of all, you don't pay the taxes after, on the rent. You pay the taxes on the net income after all your expenses, because it's an investment property. You have expenses. So the federal taxes will be applied on the positive cash flow on the after the expenses. So that doesn't impact, I mean, it will impact on the cash flow. The cash flow that you're making will be before taxes, and then your personal income will decide how much taxes you're going to pay on that cash flow. So disclaimer, I'm not an accountant to tell you exactly how much, and because it changes from person to person. But this is where working with a professional, a good accountant, can help you on that, answering that question more in a better way, personalized to you. Sukhjit, house on a bigger lot sold in Ottawa for just under 500,000 before 2019, and they demolished the house and built three duplexes that replaced one home sold for 900 each just few couple of months ago. Good for them. Good investor. So that's all I can say. Unless if you have any question in that one. How to get in touch with you for JVs? Uh, Vidyadhar Reddy. Hey Vidyadhar, DM me on Instagram. Again, I don't do JVs on a regular basis. Um, I do only JVs with people whom I'm in touch with, whom I know, um, mm, because that makes my life much easier. And also, I do very few deals once in a while. So easiest way is to DM me with your contact info. We'll be in touch. We'll talk more about our goals. If there is any opportunity in future presence, we'll reach out. And what is the minimum investment that is needed? So I'm not an investor who takes every often for JVs. I too take very very rarely, so that's me. The recent project I only took like three investors on my project, so it really depends on project to project. On that one, the minimum investment I took was at least 50,000. Lakota. Hi Aditya, thank you for providing this value. Are there any locations in Windsor you would recommend as a first time home buyer, house hacker? So, great question. It really depends on your budget too. And uh, who are you? Like, do you have a family? How much important is it for you to have a good school district? Because that also changes, right? That's person to person, especially if it's a house hack, you have to live in one unit, right? And also, are you willing to do renovations or not? Because this is another important element. My favorite location where to find a duplex and triplex and fourplex is Walkerville area, because that's where there is majority of the duplexes, triplexes and fourplexes are located, and it's a pretty good location. But if you're open for doing some renovations, you can get into nicer neighborhoods like South Windsor, LaSalle, Forest Glade, East Windsor, Tecumseh. These are some of the locations that comes into my mind where there is good school district, but the challenge is most of the houses in these locations are single family homes, but they do have a, most likely it's not that hard to convert. Maybe once in a while, very rarely, you will get a single family home with a in-law suite. Those are, comes very often, not that often at all. It's like one property in 6 months, so that is rare. But I have properties in South Windsor, right? That's where my niche is. I spend, I convert basement into a unit, and add a, if possible, add a detached ADU. So if you're okay to do over the period house hacking, do some renovations over the period, add that legal unit in the basement, then South Windsor, Forest Glade, East Windsor, LaSalle, Tecumseh, those are your best bet. Again, that also depends on what age properties you want, how much price you qualify for. There are so many elements. So I think if you're not sure where to go from here, in my opinion, just DM me. Either me or my team will get in touch with you, learn more about your specific needs, and help you, in that direction, find you that particular type of properties, because it's a person to person. How to get in touch with you? I think I answered this. DM me on Instagram. That's the best way, easiest way to get in touch with me. So, are there any locations in Windsor, 450 to 350 to 450 range, you would recommend a first-time home buyer? I love that. Now you made your question even more specific. So that's a good question. So now you are looking for under 450. So if you're looking for under 450, Walkerville is one of the best option, because in Walkerville you can get duplexes in that price range, even sometimes 3 units. Sometimes you might have a non-conforming unit in the basement. That's a duplex I have right now. This one is like, two bedroom, and there is a non-conforming unit in the basement. That's very common in the Walkerville area. A lot of people have done, in years ago. So if you get caught, probably you merge the basement with the main floor unit. So now main floor unit with the basement together becomes one big unit, and the upper unit. So those you can get under 450. So your income would be, you know mm, better. Wins laws. Do you separate water meters readers? Very good question, actually. For projects like, I have a video coming up soon where I did a basement unit and a detached ADU. We are just completely done. So that project, we completely redone the property. So in that case, we did separate, water meter, separate hydro, separate gas. But if the property, you're doing very minimal work, you don't have that much cash intensive, just do the capping instead of doing separate meters, because sometimes it might cost you more money. You might have to run the new electrical lines, you might have to run some extra plumbing to do that. If you are not in a position to afford that cost, then just, there is always ways, right? So the other alternative is, that's not a mandatory requirement to make a additional units. So what you can do, you can cap the utilities. If you have two tenants, then if the one unit is two bedroom, the other unit is three bedroom. What I did in one of the property is, I said, okay, 60% utilities, you're capped at this much. 40% utilities, you're capped at this much. And if you guys, I don't care who goes over, because if the bills are over, you both share the cost accordingly. The capping is this much, $200 or $300. If it is $100 more, then you pay 60, you pay 40. That's agreement. Only if you agree that agreement, then come into the property. And if you give a good property, people are generally okay with it. Justin D. Anthony. As a new agent, how can I generate the most leads with a limited or no money? If you're limited or no money, doing social media. Look what I'm doing right now. I'm talking about the city that I live in. I'm helping people who have questions about my city, who don't know about my city. So do share content, do add value for as many people as possible using social media, by educating them, by entertaining them. Sometimes, my video tours are a little bit entertaining. So do that. There is no secret sauce. You have to put the work in. When you don't have money, you put the work in. And if you want to get the most of the leads, right, a lot of leads, then You have to put a lot more content out there, the content that people are looking for. So for example, this video, right, the reason why I did the live saying talking about cost of living specifically, because a lot of people are reaching out asking those questions. Hey, how much does it cost me to own a house in Windsor? What is the approximate property taxes? What is the approximate? So that's just an example. There is many other topics that people have, because you as an agent, you know a lot more than a normal person, so you have to start sharing and doing, some shorts, or being creative with your home tours, doing different things that add value for other people, so that they can like and trust you, right? How many people agree with that? Is anyone who worked with me in the past, who is watching this live, just put a thumbs up, just because they know you know me through the YouTube and you did a business with me. Just put yes or no, so that way I know if anyone, because my business comes 60% of my business, or maybe 70% of my business comes from social media. Mega Nath, if you're paying 20% down, and what is the ideal period, whether 3 years or 4 years, to hit the break even? What is your recommendation period in your exp and hit the break even? Bro, your question is bit confusing. If you're paying 20% down, what is the ideal period, 2 years or 3 years, to hit the break even? What is your recommendation period in your experience to hit the break even? I'm confused. Explain me your question a little bit better. Let me try to, before, if I have to assume, if you're asking me, will you be able to make positive cash flow with 20% down? If you buy it right, you can make a positive cash flow right now. You don't have to wait for the break even 2 3 years. That's from my experience, because most of the properties I bought either has is a positive cash flow, or I did certain things to make it positive cash flow within 6 months or 1 year. That's my time period. I don't want to sit on a negative cash flow for more than a year. If I'm sitting on that for negative cash flow, that means I'm doing something with that property. I'm doing renovations, I'm waiting for the permits, or I'm adding the ADU, basement. If you don't know what ADU is, additional unit, another unit, like converting the basement into a unit, adding another house behind this existing house, so I can increase my cash flow. So unless if I'm doing that, I'm expecting a cash flow right away, because that's, as an investor, you want positive cash flows will help you survive in any market. What is the best option for first time home buyer? Pre-construction, apartment, or an independent house? So very um, mm, a common question I get from most of the first time home buyers. Here's what I would say. My personal opinion, I like the independent houses, detached homes, because you can control a lot of things. And especially, like I just mentioned, you can convert the basement into a unit. That means now you can generate more income. If it's an apartment, a condo, you cannot add income. Actually, your expenses go up, because your condo fees can increase. So that's one. Two, pre-construction. Pre-construction depends on the timing you're getting into the market and what situation you're in. If you're a first time home buyer, you can buy a home for 5% down, and you have a mortgage. You qualify for a mortgage and you have your 5% down. Better go for a resale, because resale you can get better deal. But you're in a situation where you don't have enough down payment, you have to save for the down payment. Rather, you don't want to lose that future appreciation, and you want to get in, then pre-construction might make sense, because you don't qualify at that moment, or you don't have enough down payment to buy that property. I made good money in pre-construction, but as of now, with the current market where it is in, I won't buy the pre-construction. If you guys saw my recent video, I bought a pre-construction in Calgary that was closed just recently, just a month ago, and now it's a negative cash flow. But when I bought it, the projections were actually positive 500 cash flow, because the interest rates at that point in time was different, and my intention was to just leverage on the market appreciation and the positive cash flow, and both got negatively impacted. So it depends on what's your purpose. So you got to ask yourself a little bit more questions to answer that. But all day long, resale detached homes, in my opinion, are the best product if you can afford. Naman, is it possible to invest in real estate for cash flow as an international student? Can we get mortgage? So, first of all, as an international student, that means you don't have a stable income. You don't have unless you are working part time. So, number one, qualification would be challenging. Number two, you have to pay foreign buyer tax because you don't have a permanent residency yet. So in that case, you cannot buy a home for just 5% down because you need 5% plus the 25% on the foreign buyer tax, and plus you won't qualify for mortgage that easily. So that's a very tough one. If you're a student, if you have 20, 30, 40,000, whatever it is, maybe find a partner who is investing, who has a permanent residency, who qualify for a mortgage. Maybe you chip in your money and become the passive investor or active investor. Maybe you do some work. I recently was talking to an investor, and he is partnering with a student, because this student, he is bringing 10% down, and he is qualifying for the mortgage, and plus he is putting 10% down. And the student, his job is going to manage the property, release the property, do all the work, and he's getting like 30% or 40% ownership. I don't know how they what they structured, but I was like, wow, this is a great idea. The student is smart because he, and also the investor is also smart because he don't have time to deal all with this. So he's partnering with someone who is willing to put 10% down. But someone to partner with you when you're in that stage, you have to be very active in the within the field, learning about real estate, learning about leasing, learning about managing. Then you will be able to find those partners. And in the meanwhile, keep educating, keep saving money. When you get PR, then you can jump in. Or this is where the pre-construction can help. If you have some money, if you're looking at a pre-construction project that has a 5 years closing down the road or 4 years, when you know that for sure, if you're confident, I'm saying if you're confident, because I don't advise when you're not on in a when you don't have a PR, right? But there are projects that goes 4 years, 5 years, 6 years down the road. Then you can save down payment in the phases. You don't need a mortgage right now. And if you're confident you can get a PR, then you can avoid the foreign buyer tax as well. So by then you don't have to lose the market appreciation over this 4 years period. So that's another way you can look into. And another way is syndications. A lot of syndication projects, they take 50,000, 25,000. You can invest your money in those deals. You get certain percentage partnership. Great way to get in. If you don't qualify for, if you do have foreign buyer tax, nothing will apply on that one because you're not on the title. The corporation is, you just get some shares. Ooh, I just realized it's already 8:02, and I promised my wife I'm going to take her out at for dinner. So I wish to answer more questions, but probably I'll take one or two more so that I don't disappoint you guys. But I promise to come back again every week, mostly at the same time. But for exact timings, just follow me on Instagram because I put stories often to tell when I'm coming live, and ask me any questions. And if you're someone looking to invest in Windsor, Ontario, Windsor Essex, anywhere around Windsor Essex, reach out to me. Don't be hesitant. Me or my team or any of us, more than happy to help you guys, because we have all the resources, all the knowledge to help you to not blindly sell anything what we have, but understand your needs, where you're standing with your with your finances, what's your family situation, and where you're what is the best possible option. Because after investing into this many properties, I think I became a good consultant. I can consult you at a free of cost, right? So because we are realtors are very generous. They don't charge cost on the consultation. But yeah, long story short, yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. mm, I'll put our contact info here. Any questions, right? You don't have to buy right now. You just need someone to guide you, with your current situation, what's when is the best time, all those things, just reach out.
So let me answer this question. So, can you have a two-bedroom basement as well as a garden suite in a backyard with a 45 feet into 48, 85 width in Brampton? And what would it cost for the ADU? So, Sujit, my honest answer is I don't know what's your Brampton's requirements, but I can tell you in Windsor, if it's because you got to check with your city and look at what their requirements are. In Windsor, if it's the same lot size, so your total square footage of the lot is 3,825. So 10% of 3,000, the lot size, 10% of it is 382 square feet. So I have built a house recently on a similar lot size. Mine was actually 33 by, sorry, 30 by 100. So my lot was 3,000 square feet, and 10% is 300 square feet. So with a small minor variance, I was able to build a 375 square feet above ground, and then raised ranch. So I built 700 square feet, 750 square feet together on that lot. And there is many requirements also on top of it, because is your current house a two-story or one-story, how tall it is, because those elements will differ, right? If you're qualified to build a 400 square feet on the ground, you might be able to go, if your house is two-story, you might be able to go another story or under in the lower raised range style. So you got to look into your city requirements little bit more on that ADU. If it's Windsor, reach out to me, or DM me. But for Brampton, reach out to someone in the city or Google on their city website. You will get more details in there. Are bidding wars still happening in Windsor? For some properties, yes. Because if anyone listed a property for much lower, then yes. Do you do any research, or you aware of any foreign buyers in or coming to Detroit, being just it is right there?
Do you do any research or any aware of foreign buyers in? So I do little bit of research on the foreigners who are US people coming to Windsor, because I helped at least 10 to 15 people in last 2 years who moved from US, but I don't know the exact numbers. But in general, the population in Windsor is growing. I don't know much about Detroit, don't ask me. Maybe reach out to someone in that area.
What are the average rents prices in average rent prices in Windsor for two-bedroom and one-bedroom in purpose built?
Two-bedroom, you can expect, if it's a updated 1500, 1600. If it is outdated little bit, 12, 1300, 1400. For a one bedroom updated one, 1300, 1250, 1200. If it is so condition, 1000, 1100.
One more question last. Sorry, I have to jump out because I promised my wife, like I said. But see you at the same time again on the next slide. Oh, that's cool. You're generating positive cash flow within 1 year. One more question. If I want to buy a property along with my friend, what is the process and how does it work?
Simple. You just partner with them, you both discuss the terms and ask your lawyer to do a JV agreements, that we can go into that JV process, because you know how to structure your paperwork and all those things. But for now, because we are running out of time, I would suggest talk to a lawyer on how to put an agreement in place, and talk to a mortgage person if you both are buying together, if you put both of your names in there or not. And talk to a accountant, would they suggest buy a property on personal or open a corporation and both of you be the directors, or one of you be the directors, accountant. So those three professionals can help you better talk. Don't discount, even if you have to pay them like $100 for a consulting to 150. It's worth, because you're getting into relation, a contract, a partnership, right? It's your biggest investment in life. So don't discount on that. And talk to some professionals who are investors, who have done this before. If you're investing in Windsor, reach out to us, DM me on Instagram. More than happy to consult. Either me or one of my agent will get in touch with you, help you answer more questions, put you in touch with the required people. and go from there. Okay, awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And like I said, I'll be coming live every Thursday. Ask any questions you have, and if you want to help in Windsor, just DM me any questions. Don't hesitate to. With that, have a wonderful evening. Take care, guys. See you on the next live.